Hello, dear friends. I hope you're doing well. Those of you who are making their first steps into quantitative research and therefore into most likely SPSS, this video is a necessary first step. A necessary first step because here we will see how we can enter our variables correctly and how to specify them, to specify their properties. We know that there are different types of variables. Some are measured on a nominal scale, as we will see. Others are ordinal in nature. There are other variables that can be scored on a ratio scale. So the starting point is, of course, opening the SPSS file. You have the spreadsheet that you can see in front of me. The bottom left side has two tabs, as you can see, variable view and data view, and you can oscillate between them. We cannot enter our data without specifying our variables because quantitative research, after all, is a study of a form of relationship that governs variables. So if I come to the variable view tab, I see those numbers that are given by default by the software. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. These are numbers that correspond to the variables. Here you see 22. At the bottom, the last number is 22. But as I scroll down, I will find the other numbers, of course, and theoretically it's infinite. What we do actually as researchers at the level of the doctorate is maybe consider a very limited set of variables, maybe up to 5, 6, 7, 10. So please understand that whatever piece of information we enter here in specifying our variable will have consequences on your analysis. The computer cannot correct our mistakes, unfortunately, so we should know how to feed it with the appropriate pieces of information. So let us consider the first slot, number 1, means variable 1. Let's imagine that we have gender as a research variable. Our variable needs a name, so we write gender there. Except that this slot here can accept a word like gender where there are no spaces, there are no special characters, special symbols. However, if we are to write a variable like city of origin, as you can see on the screen, here we will have a problem. We will receive a message that we have typed an illegal character. So one thing we can do in regard to a variable like city of origin is to lump the 3-word city of origin into one, like city origin or orig city or whatever. Another solution is to write something like city and then underscore and then of and then underscore and then origin. After we have successfully given our variable a name, here you can see gender and city of origin, which we have lumped into city origin as one word. We move on to type. The software gives numeric as a default specification for the type, but in this slot here, you can see other types like comma, dot, scientific notation, etc. So you have these. If in the course of your study you rely on numerical data, then of course numeric is the default specification for this variable in this slot. And then we have width. Very simply, width is just one way of specifying how many digits you would like to have in this slot here. 8 is again the default number given, but you can still change it. You can go up to, I don't know, it all depends on your purposes. Again, in the type of research related to applied linguistics, to social sciences in general, what you do is leave this as a default. The same thing goes for the next slot, decimal. Okay, by default, we are given number 2 there. This simply means that we consider only 2 digits after the decimal, after the point. For example, 2.23 instead of 2.32111151, etc. For label, the difference between label and the name is that here in label, we mention the variable's name in full without fearing any constraint, without having a message. For example, gender, we can repeat this as gender here. So here it's not a problem because we have only one word. But for city of origin, we have the freedom here of writing city of origin. So label here allows for spaces, special characters, whatever, without receiving that message, as I said. All right. One of the most important rubrics that we need to be careful of is the rubric called values after label. So in values here, you have none by default, but this again, whether it's none or something else, will depend on the type of variables that we have. For a variable like gender, so when we measure gender, it's not like when we measure grades on a given exam. For gender, we speak of 2 possibilities generally, so it's either male or female. But for grades, it's not either 1 or 2. So you have 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, etc. That goes up to 20 if the score is out of 20. But for gender, we have just 2. Here we click on the 3 dots there, and then we have value, okay? And then we will see label. Here, since gender is a 2-level variable, that is to say male and female, and since the computer understands only the language of numbers, let's decide, for example, to assign number 1 to female and number 2 to male. By the way, it doesn't make any difference between the 2 elements if we reverse the numbers, because numbers here in this case help us only isolate categories. For city of origin, we can do the same. So let's imagine that we are comparing a group of students from different Moroccan cities. For example, let's assign number 1 to the city of Oujda, for example. So I type 1 and then I type Oujda in label. So 1 in values and Oujda in label. And then I click on add. And then number 2 to the city of Rabat. And then maybe number 3 to the city of Agadir. And I can add a 4th Dakhla, for example. So we can have as many cities as we want, depending on our research purpose, of course. Understand, ladies and gentlemen, that for values, if the variable does not involve categories, do not touch this value. Leave it with the default setting, which is none. But if it has categories, as is the case with gender, because you have male, female, and city of origin, because you have city 1, city 2, city 3, city 4, etc., then of course we have to specify those values. Now, for the missing, this is just in case you have, for example, a case of a student who did not specify his or her gender, so you write number 1, for example, if it's missing. Now, for the columns, we can leave this with its default setting of 8. For alignment, it's not a big issue, so you can leave that with number 8. It does not affect your analysis. What is more important is measures. Measures ask us to tell the computer what type of variable we have. The reason is that the computer has to take that into consideration in the processing of the results. So we have here gender is a nominal variable. Nominal because we have used number 1 to name one type. For example, 1 male, we have named that, and 2 female, or 1 female, 2 male, it depends. We did the same thing for the city of origin. So this is a nominal scale variable. So we specify nominal. We can do the same for the city of origin. All right. So for input, you leave it as it is.